There's a cultural shift happening in Pokemon. We're feeling it on these platforms, but it's bleeding into Pokemon now. And that is this idea that everything is accelerating. I think we've felt this. I'm not trying to generalize, but I'm just trying to point out some patterns. I think we've felt this in the games and in these platforms as well. Your inbox, there's something urgent. You get a notification pop up from Pokemon Go or Pokemon Unite, and everything feels urgent. These notifications feel urgent. We are playing these games, we're logging in, but we're also maintaining this type of presence where we check in, we feed our Pokemon the berries so that we can get the Pokemon gift. We do the daily tasks and in Pokemon Unite that's logging in. And if we don't do these tasks, there's this feeling of falling behind where we are losing out on something. And there are a couple of elements that we need to define as they manifest in the games. For Pokemon Go, it's these limited time raids. So these raids, they're right now, and if you don't do them, you miss the moment. You miss it forever. There's some armored Mewtwo raids, some legendaries, right? There's also micro events where in Pokemon Go we have a new hat Pikachu, but it's only available from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. There's also some Twitch drops, right? Where if you watch a streamer, but you're not really watching it, you're just there to collect that thing. In Pokemon Unite, there's those login streaks where if you didn't play, you can't access the rewards, the coins, the new Pokemon. It feels like you're being punished. And then there's these content cliffs where if there's no new content, there's no more rewards. There isn't a reason to stay. So you fall and that's it, you're done. So everything feels urgent, and that participation is more of a presence. The participation feeling like it's a presence now. It's feeling a little constrained, where the play is feeling like it's a job. We don't talk enough about how play has become more of an obligation. The game designs, Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, and even the mainline games are feeling more like it's just task management software, because there's this emotional layer that's baked into the logic of it of you don't want to be left behind, right? So you better do these tasks. This comes about in a few ways where there's this idea of scarcity, right? You only have 3 days to get this really versed on, or this raid's only going to be open for this amount of time, or this specific arena is only available for a month. Then there's this urgency layer of, hey, this raid ends in 2 minutes. Everybody else is doing it, so you better hop in. And I know that now you can schedule raids and invite people to them, but still that pressure, that urgency is still exerted on us as players. And then there's also this response of absence. If you don't log in, what happens? Well, you're not getting candy, you're not getting experience points, there's no event for you to play and participate in. So it's sort of like that absence is punished. It's not your fault if the games feel like this. This is by design. And, I've brought up scholars in technical communication for a while. I'm going to pull them in again because they've seen this coming. And it's really important that we highlight these patterns so we understand the system so that we can resist the system and play these games how we want to play. We've talked about Kairos before, but I want to bring it in one more time. Kairos is a rhetorical term that is about context and time. We understand it as the right time to act, to speak, to say something, to make a decision. On these platforms, the right time is constantly now. It's the next video, next video, the next video. You just, as soon as it ends, you're going to watch the next one. It's the right time that is constantly now, and it is never enough. There's this tension that emerges. It kind of feels like this idea of the Pokemon Center is open 24/7, but your window is closing. Like somehow that's going to be pulled from you, right? That raid, you're not going to get it. That Pikachu with a hat, you're not going to get it. So your participation is being baked into the infrastructure while these games are designed. So we're going to pull on another theory in tactical technical communication, and we're going to use a couple scholars. We're going to pull in Dawson Palm and then also Desserteau. And they both talk about this idea of using strategy and tactics. Now, strategy here is power from above. When I say power from above, I mean game developers, I mean corporations, I mean the platforms, how they build that infrastructure to get us to play these raids quickly, right? Hurry. It's that fear of missing out. Now, the tactic is what we as everyday users, everyday players, and content creators, right? The tactic is the way that we resist the power from above, how we resist as users. What this looks like in Pokemon games is that we, as users and the audience and viewers, we can skip events intentionally. We don't have to log in. It's okay if we miss Community Day. It can also be about logging out, disengaging with Pokemon Unite, disengaging with Pokemon Go, and even the mainline games, right? It could be playing older games without timers. Fire up your Game Boy Advanced or your Game Boy Color and put the console system in, right? Put the gaming cartridge in. It could be returning to Pokemon um, Sun and Moon on the Nintendo DS. You're not playing with a timer, you're just meandering, building up your team, returning, or starting a new game. This could also be, you know, some players spoof GPS in Pokemon Go. That's another way you can resist. And then also just not engaging with the streak. There are some folks who may do the weekly tasks, right? But it takes them a month to do it because they're not logging in every day and every week. It's drawn out. These are tactical refusals. There's also infrastructure and rhythms that are baked into these designs. And so these platforms restructure how we experience time. And that's because these event only plays mean that they're turning the game into a calendar. Pokemon Go used to be like this sort of playground where you'd go down to Santa Barbara and you'd like see people at the pier like running, sprinting to get a Gyarados or a Charizard, right? And that is not really the experience anymore. It's event only. You have to have a specific raid pass. You have to buy a certain ticket to participate. So in this way, as trainers and viewers and users of these games and players of these games, we're being trained to respond. That infrastructure is pressing on us to respond. But we need to reflect. So we have a few Pokemon examples here that I want to pull in. I've already talked about Pokemon Go, but I'm going to return to it for just a moment. We have daily streaks, there's also limited spawns, and there's this urgency and anxiety surrounding Community Day because we have that fear of missing out the next legendary, next mega, next Dynamax. And it's the emotional weight of breaking a long streak. It feels like you take one day off, and the system, the game, Niantic, the corporation, is treating that as a betrayal. Because right, you lose that streak, you lose the experience points, you lose the rewards. In Pokemon Unite, this is the ranked sessions becoming this ladder of anxiety, right? You have that pressure to continue to win. This is also event only skins that are feeling more like prestige elements of pressure. And if you miss if you miss the logins, you're not getting coins. You're missing upgrades. And I think we saw a little bit of this in Scarlet and Violet Terra raids. That's time-gated content where the new forms disappear after a weekend. And it's structured more like live operations, not that classic game exploration. That's something different that Scarlet and Violet is doing. So this is just some time to reflect. You don't have to catch all of the Pokemon, and you certainly don't have to log in every day to prove that you're a real fan or a Pokemon trainer. It's okay to play the games at your pace or not at all, to take a hiatus or not return to them. We don't want play to feel like work. And if you're feeling this pressure, if you're feeling like play is feeling like work, that is by design. And it is the system, the corporation, Niantic, these platforms that is exerting that pressure. Let's slow down. Let's build new rhythms together. Play the games how you want to play. Take a break. Return to them if you wish. But let's take some time to reflect. And we'll still be here for you.